of Back to Business and the Future of Travel, powered by the TrustYou knowledge. My name is Sirma Ivanova. I'm a key account and business development manager at TrustYou. And I'm really happy to be here. And I can't wait to introduce our panelists today. I will start with Lublena Dimova. She is a senior research manager at STR. She is also part of the research and development team of the European Travel Commission. Welcome, Lublena. It's really nice to have you here, and thank you for your time. Our next panelist, Mark Starkov. He is a hospitality and travel tech expert, and he's also adjunct professor at the New York University. He is considered to be a thought leader with more than 30 years of experience, industry experience, and we are very happy to have you here, Mark. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Our third panelist, Thomas Emanuel, who is a senior director of STR, unfortunately cannot join us in this very moment because they have a fire alarm in their building and they needed to evacuate immediately. So he promised that he will join us as soon as everything goes back to normal. So welcome to all attendees from all over the world. Especially thanks for your attendance, for all the attendees that are joining from different regions, different time zones. Perhaps it's too early or too late for you. Whatever it is, we appreciate you being here with us. We can start with our first topic. We're going to touch very interesting topics today, powered by TrustYou data, and we're starting with one which is the leveraging the impact of semantic categories. We're going to talk about cleanliness, about public health, and all these relevant keywords for the last 2 years. In TrustYou, we wanted to know how much people actually talk about all the topics that are related to public health. That's why we trained our algorithm to detect and to extract all the words that are connected to COVID. And we were very surprised actually to find out that only 4.7% of the reviews were mentioning COVID. Only 2.5% were mentioning of the reviews were mentioning safety, and less than 1% was about face masks or masks. Of course, we noticed some other trend, and this is the increased importance of cleanliness for all the guests in their post-survey, post-stay. So more than 25% of the reviews in 2021 were connected to the word cleanliness in the destination. So my first question to our panelists is, how do you think this trend will develop? Do you think people will still talk about cleanliness, and will cleanliness be increasingly important, or this trend will fade away as many others? What do you think?
I can start or give the floor to Max.
As you wish.
Ladies first, always.
Thank you very much. What we've seen also through our research is definitely that cleanliness, it's a very important topic. Of course, in this graph, I was just thinking about the possible explanation behind the increase. And I think it's very often the case that the shares of mentioning of this word happens because cleanliness is perceived by people as a proxy to the chance of getting sick. So very often this will be the direct connection that goes into customers' mind. It's very, very intuitive, and I can certainly say that we've seen similar evolution also in this summer when we had spikes in COVID cases. So definitely this will be one trend that will continue. I would say, since I'm representing more the destination side of the things, that cleanliness is also important at the destination level, but the COVID is not yet fading away from the conversations, especially when we talk about travelers from long-haul markets discussing potential visitation to Europe, for instance. Of course, the share of COVID is fading away now because there are also another rising topics like energy crisis, the war in Russia and Ukraine, but still, especially in the Chinese, American, Australian markets, we can definitely say that people are still talking about COVID because the topic is very broad and it includes a variety of things like protocols, restrictions, even the rising costs, and so on. As a trend, I think that we've seen through interviews with customers that after COVID, they have somehow become more cautious. And when it comes to accommodation, they are planning to do more in-depth research when checking the potential accommodation establishments, by not only checking the ratings, but going through all of the comments. So this is what we got from some interviews with people holidaying in Europe last year, for instance. Another thing that unfortunately we've heard as a feedback is that cleanliness in public areas was really improving. That was a feedback from local people. And once the restrictions were lifted, for instance, the cleanliness in public transportation specifically went down sharply, which causes, of course, dissatisfaction among travelers, among local people. And yeah, this is an area that I think that we should keep high as a standard from now on. And just final words for what I think about the future. Definitely cleanliness and health are becoming more important topic because people are generally becoming more cautious about their health. You know, the example of people now washing their hands much more often than before COVID. Another argument that comes to my mind, and I think it's very important for accommodations and for destinations, is that low hygiene, low cleanliness, bad reviews are not the only things that can happen. They're like, besides of being something bad for the destination as a reputation, they're actually causing anxiety to people because at the moment we have different level of sensitivity to this topic, and this kind of anxiety can unfortunately impact in a bad way, even intention to travel.
Okay, thank you so much for your input. Max, what do you think?
Well, I mean, listen, cleanliness, that's not a new thing. That's not a COVID thing. Because if you look back to, there were certain regional pandemics of bed bugs, for example, back in the day. You know, there have been other explosions, maybe not pandemics, but epidemics of SARS and so forth. So in this sense, people have always been sensitive to cleanliness, and I believe that cleanliness is part of the value, you know, the value versus price equation. When people pay $100 to stay at a certain hotel, but they expect more, and this more exactly is the value that they perceive, at least the perceived value that they will get against this $100. Cleanliness is part of that. The same is the health benefits. I'm buying a $200 resort and I'm going there for the weekend with my family. The $200 already include in the price, it's embedded the perceived value that you will get health benefits. You will relax, you know, you will distress. And of course, your expectations that this resort, while you're paying $200, you know, and the reputation, and that's why it's very important, you know, all of the TrustYou type of review summaries, I would say, that address the issue of cleanliness are taken into these expectations. While I'm paying $200, I expect that this resort will provide me, of course, with clean and safe environment. And on the other hand, I also expect to, you know, to gain health benefits for myself and for my family. So in this sense, I believe that it's a long-term, cleanliness is a long-term component of the value, the perceived value that people expect, you know, from their vacation or from their hotel stay or whatever it is.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we all agree on the statement that cleanliness will stay as an important topic for destinations and for all the hospitality providers. Yes, let's move on to our next topic then, which is very interesting. Max, you already mentioned service and relation with value and price. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about, service-price relationship. For the purposes of this research, we analyzed a massive amount of TrustYou data, and we observed 10 countries representing different parts of the world. What we noticed here for the last 4 years is that no matter the challenges now, as we know, staff shortages, we know rising cost of energy and all other challenges that our industry has at the moment, we see that most of the countries has managed to remain the same good level of service before and after COVID all the time. And we looked at it and also at the price sentiment, or how guests perceive the price with the same period of time and same set of countries. And we realized that actually guests were slightly disappointed by the price with time. We could say that the hoteliers or hospitality providers in all destinations managed to keep a good levels of service on the detriment of the higher prices. Having said that, do you think that this is a trend that will stay? Rising prices, a little bit disappointed guests, but still satisfied by the services. And what can destinations do to remain this high level of services despite the rising costs of almost everything? What do you think?
Well, I mean,
please, Max. So I would leave the accommodation side of the question to Max, since I'm not exactly expert with the hotel services, but at destination level, there are a lot of things that we can work on. Specifically, something that becomes increasingly important, for instance, it's the tourism infrastructure within the destination, because we are very much behind with the needs of travelers nowadays. So this is one direction I think that you could work, because people increasingly have less free time, so they want everything during their vacation to go smoothly. And for this to happen, you need, for instance, infrastructure. Then the overall experience will definitely increase. About the prices, it's a very complex question, in fact, because also local communities need to benefit. As much as travelers are going to crisis, it's also the providers who go to that. So there should be some kind of compromises from both sides. I think out of peak seasons travelers or packages to less popular places could be a good solution. I think that particular products for specific segments could be a solution, but it really depends on the particular situation, what the crisis is, and based on that, of course, there are many strategies that could be. It's very hard to really give a concrete answer to this question, to be honest.
Yeah, to point it out. Okay, and Max, I'm sure that you're going to mention digitalization here, your favorite topic.
Well, I mean, first of all, let's talk about the price, because there are two types of prices. One is the nominal price, and the nominal price is the sticker price that people see. Let's say the room is 200 euros, and then there's a real price, which is the price, the nominal price minus the inflation. So, so in this sense, if we look at the average European hotel, the average North American hotel, the nominal price increased by, I'm looking here, between 12 and 15% on average. This is this year, 2022 versus last year. 12 to 15%. But the real price, when you deduct, you know, the extraordinary inflation that we see in Europe, then the real price is actually lower than last year.
Okay.
I mean, it's like 2-3% lower than last year. So in this sense, which means that hoteliers are absorbing some of this inflation, And they're not just taking them, they're not just price gouging or like taking advantage of the travelers and so forth.
It's on their expense.
Yeah, so in this sense, yes, people are paying more, but they're paying more primarily because of the inflation and because the real money that reaches the hotel, because mind you, they have to pay more for labor, they have to pay more for utilities and so forth. The real money that reaches the hotel are less than what they were making last year. So in this sense, and I can understand why in TrustYou's data, travelers are not happy with the price because I mean, yeah, they pay nominal dollars, which is like the higher prices today, but they don't do the calculation to see that, oh, actually we were paying less. The hotel is getting less than what they were getting last year, though we are paying more nominal dollars or euros. So in this sense, it's a optics issue, if you will, and I expect that until inflation lasts, especially in the like the 9–10% levels, people will be dissatisfied by the price. There's no doubt.
But do you think that the hoteliers will manage to keep the good level of service sentiment that they have right now? Do you think that this will stay?
Yeah, I understand. I mean, service is a different. It's a very interesting issue because we are operating today with, on average, 40 to 50% less humans at the hotels than we operated back in 2019. So with less people, we're delivering almost the same level of service because the occupancies are almost at the same levels as 2019. So in this sense, with fewer people, we're delivering more. How do we do that in hospitality? Technology. That's the only thing that helps us. For example, mobile check-in. When you have a mobile check-in with people similar to how they check in for the airlines, they check in for the hotel via the mobile device. They even select the room. I want room on the 4th floor, and this is room 405 or room 407 because it's closer to the elevator or further away from the elevator, whatever is the case. Like Hilton is doing this across all of their properties, for example. Then, and when you receive, once after you check in, you receive a mobile key, and you skip, the front desk. And when you skip the front desk, and more people are checking in via their mobile devices, you don't need, the people that you needed back in 2019 at the front desk. You need half of them. So that's how the industry, on one hand, is providing a service that the travelers are already accustomed to. Because mind you, travelers are consumers not only of travel, they're consumers of airlines, they're consumers of, like movie tickets or theater tickets where you choose your seat. So they already expect this service, and we have been late in delivering this service. The whole mobile check-in and so forth. So in this sense, now that we're finally delivering this service, travelers are very happy, though we're delivering the service with half the people.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole, I would say it's a theoretical and arguments in the industry that hospitality means providing human touch, providing human services, and I would argue that that's not the case, because you have Airbnb, you have all of the short-term rentals, vacation rentals, Vrbo, which is part of Expedia, and all the others. And quite often, actually 90% of the cases, people don't see their hosts, they don't see a person when they go into their short-term rentals, and they're very happy. So if you do the same exercise, TrustYou, with, let's say, Airbnb guests, you will see that their satisfaction with their service is very high, though they're no humans that they see. Yes, of course, behind the curtains, there are humans that develop the Airbnb website and maintain it. People that the hosts hire in order to clean their their units, their villas, their houses, and so forth, apartments. But the actual traveler doesn't see humans. So in this sense, good service doesn't mean human provided services. And actually, just the last example, on many hotels in Finland, they do not have anybody on property.
Wow.
And the upper mid-scale properties, you do everything via your mobile. You know, you get the code to the front door, you get the mobile key to your room. If you need anything via text, you can request everything, and everything is delivered, sent to you, and so forth, using outsourced services and the likes. A lot of automation in these hotels and the likes. So what I mean is that we have to, and just to finish, the future of hospitality in general is seeing less humans and more automation, more machines, more robots, more artificial intelligence, and so forth. That's the future of hospitality.
That's you partially answered to my next question. How can destinations turn digitalization into a success story, and how can whole destination implement digitalization in their journey to being more attractive to their customers?
Well, from an institutional destination management organization point of view, we believe that digitalization equals competitiveness, and whoever refuses to adopt will not be competitive. So we see benefits in many areas for the work of national tourism organizations. For instance, the quantity and the quality of data which we collect and based on which we make operational decisions and strategy. The digitalization definitely helps in this direction. We also see digitalization as the tool that supports stakeholders communication, which is very essential element in moments such as crisis, for instance, for fast reaction, for fast decision on next steps and so on. A variety of tourism organizations across the world also use digital tools to inform potential investors about performance within the destinations, which is very useful. We also have destinations who are promoting themselves as, for instance, MICE convention destinations, and we can certainly see that organizers of, especially of mega events, let's say, they're increasingly looking for digital solution at the venues, which will help them, for instance, to manage, monitor, estimate, for instance, CO emissions generated and so on. So basically, especially for the event industry, this is becoming increasingly important. And of course, the feedback that we receive from travelers, it's essential. At the same time, within the destination, as it was already mentioned, digitalization can help very much to the tourist experience and also the locals' lifestyle. For instance, what comes to my mind is supporting an integrated transportation system. So let's say ticketing, live traffic, autonomous vehicles, for instance, or sharing services. We also have the technology and digital tools there to support people which are with some form of inabilities, for instance, which are in fact a very big and wealthy market, I must say, from what I've read. And also, last but not least, there are also an entertaining part of all digital things. We all know this concept of gamification, which can be used by destinations, for instance, to send people to less known places, rewarding them, making them understand a little bit more about the destination and also get attached and come back. I think all of these, if combined, can make the life of all the groups involved in the destination life easier and nicer.
Yes, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Sirma, the whole point is that, first of all, when we talk about destinations, there's no such thing as a destination as far as tourism entity. You have government tourist offices, you have regional tourist offices, you have conventional visitors bureaus, you have DMOs,
Yes,
destination marketing organizations, and so forth. But there's no such thing as the destination has to do this or has to do that, because there's so many parties involved here. But let's talk about the people, the organizations that are tasked to promote a destination.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we have always had in the past government tourist offices sitting somewhere around the world, having an annual budget, spending it on promoting a destination, and that's where I would say their mission ends. And I believe that this has always been wrong, because there should be a very cohesive, integrated approach to how do we engage the traveler in the dreaming phase? How do we engage them in the planning phase? How do we actually make them convert and book in the booking phase? And then how do we make sure that they have the best experience phase? And then how do we make sure that we retain them and they come back? So these 5 phases of the digital customer journey. I don't believe that there's even a single government tourist office that cares about all 5 phases of the digital customer journey, or that there's any cohesion in between an office somewhere abroad and let's say the domestic side of the government tourist office or quasi-government tourist office. Tourism authorities like Ministry of Tourism, for example, that is supposed to care about the infrastructure, tourism infrastructure, to care about whether we have adequate accommodations and so forth, transportation and the likes. So what I mean is that, so this is one side of the story, meaning that the destinations, through their destination organizations, have to look at the bigger picture, the full 5 phases of the digital customer journey. That's one thing. The second thing is education. We don't believe that the government tourist offices, the government authorities are doing a good enough job of educating the providers of tourism services into what's outside of the country, what are the actual likes and dislikes, and the preferences of the customers. What are the different, I would say, nuances of preferences between this market versus that market, and so forth. So all of the education about the new digital customers. We have digitally and technology savvy customers that are coming, and they're using their smartphones for everything in their native countries. They come to a tourist destination and there's no Wi-Fi, or there's no, that they cannot use it for anything. So what they mean is that this is already I would say, a reason for dissatisfaction. So when we talk about digitalization of a certain destination, it has to be from the ground up. Hoteliers, all the trips and tour providers, all the local experiences providers, and so forth. It has to start with them. It has to start with, of course, with the understanding that the digital technologies, the digital way of life is already a fact in the Western world, if you will. And these people that are using using technology in their daily life to do everything, from shopping, communication, to education, and so forth, they expect to do the same when they come to your destination. But all of this could be done only through education. I believe that this is where we're lacking big time. I mean, there was a survey of the most prestigious hospitality university in the world, of students what they would like to become after they finish the hospitality studies university, and the word technology did not even exist. We are service industry powered by technology. That's what hospitality is, and tourism is becoming exactly the same. And the students, the current students, don't even mention the word technology in their future careers. So,
Yeah.
so that's my point is that we have this wrong, I would say. I mean, I have been a director of a government tourist office, and I can tell you, we have this wrong. We do it exactly the opposite way that we should be doing it.
I
And
really
then
hope.
just one last thing, Sirma, is that I believe that all the tourism destinations will be forced to adopt technology, to adopt digital way of life, if you will, because of over tourism. You know, since the fall of communism, 2.5 billion people joined the middle class the last 30 years. Middle class means once you buy that car, once you buy that apartment, and the dishwasher, what do? You start traveling. That's what middle class means. You have disposable income and so forth. Another 2 billion people will join the middle class over the next 20 years. So over tourism is coming big time after the pandemic, and it's not only the pent-up demand that the pandemic caused, but simply the exploding middle class, and destinations will be forced to adopt technology, will be forced to, for example, similar to Machu Picchu, to stagger, at least to try to stagger, the tourist flows, or the Vatican museums. I mean, it's they're literally overrun by tourists. So what do? You introduce lower rates in the off season. You introduce lower rates in 6 a.m. Versus the peak hours and so forth. So there are many things, and all of this is done online.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's my point. So all of this will force destinations, whether they like it or not, to adopt technology and digital, I would say, applications and the likes.
we really hope that this will happen sooner, so they can leverage all the benefits from digitalization and data-driven decisions, of course. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for the detailed answers to these questions. It's very interesting to touch so many topics and in so much areas of our daily life. And we can move on to our next topic. We've chosen this topic from our Pulse of the Industry report from Q2, and we have used third-party data to come to this conclusion. This summer, short-haul trips were 27 times more popular than long-haul trips in Europe. Although long-haul demand also saw an impressive increase, travelers prefer to stay closer to home for their summer trips. First of all, do you agree with this statement? Do you see it in the destinations? Do you see it in the areas that you are experts in?
Well, what I can say from my experience as research manager and analyzing exactly the trends, I could say it's not exactly a new trend, because within Europe, the intra-European travel, excluding the domestic, has been always the prevailing form of travel. So in pre-pandemic, we had around 77% of all travelers in Europe coming from European countries, and only around a quarter coming from non-European source markets. What has changed, however, it's the desire for domestic travel. So, which in fact, it doesn't need to be related with the distance itself, because if we consider big destinations in Germany, France, Norway, Sweden, sometimes the destination is not very big, in fact, but people, I mean, the opposite, the distance could be very big. So short haul travel doesn't necessarily mean distance only, but just traveling within the boundaries of your own country, because it's perceived more safe. And this is in fact a behavioral pattern that we could see in graphs if we go back in the time, we could see an increase in short-haul trips, especially domestic, during the financial crisis, for instance, 2008-9. Then in 2016, when there was a wave of terrorist attacks across several European countries, we also saw this spike in interest to long-haul trips. More recently, the COVID pandemic, definitely. So in this case, it's very good to kind of observe what destinations did, how long this trend could last, because it's not going to last forever. It's a pattern that will essentially repeat. And when we talk about European markets specifically, at the moment we are analyzing some results for the next 6 months within Europe again. But from previous research waves, what we could tell is that among Europeans who intend to travel, usually around 50% want to go to another European country, and only around a third want to travel domestically. And saying that, I would also want to make the note that markets are very different. Although Europe is small, we've seen completely different behaviors. So let's say for markets such as France, Spain and Italy, which are the biggest markets, we've seen a big interest for domestic travel or for traveling to neighboring countries. While if you go to the Dutch market, for them, traveling to another European country, which is potentially not one of the neighboring countries, but a little bit longer, it's actually the preferred option. Then we have also markets such as Austria and Belgium, which for them it's even more interesting to go to neighboring countries than traveling domestically or a little bit far. So the only conclusion that under which we can unify the different markets is that right now in the past years, definitely the intention for long haul travel was much smaller, and it's normal. This is in general, it's more expensive, it's more time consuming, and especially during the pandemic, it was also impossible. But definitely, just to confirm, I think we see the same trends as in your data. It's not a new trend, but we certainly saw an increase in intra-European travel. Europeans were traveling this summer as how can I say, not as concerned of the rising costs or anything else. It was basically their first completely COVID-free vacation in the majority of cases. They had planned this vacation maybe much in advance, or maybe they had savings, you know. So we definitely saw this spike.
Yeah.
So I agree.
Actually, the same is happening in. I mean, I can speak about North America. First of all, it's a whole continent. Domestic travel is during the pandemic. That's what saved the industry, if you will. During the pandemic, the United States was the first country in the world to recover somewhat, I would say, from the pandemic, and the main reason is domestic travel. You know, from one end to the other, and you know, the beaches in Florida, the golf resorts in Arizona, and so forth. So it's definitely north, south, you know, I would say short haul air travel, and then by cars. I mean, Americans are traveling by cars, you know, for weekend trips, golf trips, and so forth. So what I mean is that short haul has always been the predominant way of traveling in North America, simply because there's so many opportunities for people to travel. On the other hand, because we're talking about destinations here and destination organizations, when COVID struck, I mean, back in March of 2020, most of the government tourist offices, PR agencies that were hired by countries to promote them and so forth, they closed shop. And why would you know, your budget, forget it. Why would you promote our country when people cannot travel? And this was the biggest mistake that destinations made, because they should have converted marketing dollars into communication dollars to constantly advise the traveling public, past travelers, travel tour operators, travel agents, and so forth. What's happening in my country? You know, in whatever is this, you know, the country of interest. What is happening in the country? How they're handling COVID? Is there lockdown or there isn't lockdown? Are there any travel restrictions or there are no travel restrictions? What is the level of infections by COVID and so forth? So what I mean is that there was no information. I kid you not, there was no information. So, and that was one of the reasons why when in June, the United States removed the requirement for Americans traveling abroad to get a COVID test before coming back to the United States, and everybody was, Brand USA, which is it's a private organization, but with some government funding, which is the government, which is the national tourism organization, if you will, Brand USA. They say, oh, so now there will be explosion of travel to Europe because of Americans, because they're no longer required, to test when they're coming back. And second, the dollar is so strong, and it didn't happen. Why? No information. Americans do not know what's the situation in Belgium, what's the situation in France. That's my point. There was no information. So this is one of the major failings, I would say, of tourism authorities around the world, that they shut down budgets, they shut down offices, they fired PR agencies, and they didn't convert at least part of their marketing dollars into communication dollars.
Yeah. Well, we really hope that they will learn from the past, and really hope that we will not have any more this kind of situation.
Though you know that governments never learn, but that's a different story.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much for this input. We had just one more question here regarding workation and leisure. This is really important topics. Do you think destinations are ready for the workation traveler, for the traveler that wants to stay more, they want to extend their holiday, or the digital nomads that want to spend months in a certain destination? Do you think they're ready for that?
Well, to be honest, I know that this is a trend that has started already before the COVID pandemic and accelerated recently. I'm not exactly sure if all destinations are ready. I know that there are a lot of visa programs for people to stay up to 1 year, which is great. What comes to my mind is a very important precaution, let's say, for destinations to be ready is that the accommodation and the business sector need to work very closely. There needs to be ensured, for instance, enough co-working spaces, flexible equipment rentals. A big portion of that is also related to, maybe Max is a bigger expert in technologies than me, but when we talk about cybersecurity, for instance, trustworthy digital infrastructure, it's very important for us to be able to meet the needs of the digital nomads. And most importantly, at least in my opinion, is that no matter what happens and no matter how destinations react, they need to be sure, they need to ensure that there is a shield which protects the local communities and that they do not welcome a trend which leads to gentrification, which we, for instance, saw a lot with Airbnbs, with rental accommodation. It was completely regulated. The prices of houses went up and so on. So whatever direction we want to take to increase, because let's say the digital nomads are often very well educated, they're happy to explore the local culture, stay longer, invest in local businesses, but no matter that, we always need to estimate what's the impact on the local population and make sure that these digital nomads don't benefit on the back of the local community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting angle. Yeah.
I mean, listen, first of all, in-office work has changed forever. There's no doubt. I believe that the formula that is being more and more pushed by the main companies, I mean, I'm talking about Apple and Google, Facebook, and so forth, is a hybrid type of work environment where you have to be in the office 3 days a week. But, which means that you have to live nearby in order for you to be in the office 3 days a week. So, and all the major companies, Fortune 500 companies, that's the formula that they're more or less adopting, all of them. So will there be digital nomads? Of course, there will be digital. There will be people. I mean, at my company, we used to have, I mean, at least 20, 25% work remotely, exactly in the, you know, and they traveled around the world, or they were in a particular destination, but they worked remotely. And actually many professions now, because of technology advancements and so forth, you can do that. That's obvious. But I don't believe that there will be a stampede of digital nomads roaming around the countryside of a country and destroying the local ways of life and buying houses and raising the price of real estate. I don't believe so, because ultimately what companies are doing is they're you know they're applying different salary levels to people that work at the main office versus somebody who is remote. You know, all of the big companies have different levels of payroll depending on if you work in a, let's say, cheaper state or cheaper country, you get, for the same level of work, you get a lower salary. That's obvious. Versus somebody who lives in Manhattan and works in Manhattan. So in this sense, I believe that sooner or later there will be a balance between digital nomads and people that work maybe not full time and not every day, but let's say 3-4 days in the office, which means that I don't think that the digital nomads will destroy the way of life in the countryside. Let's put it this way. 10-15% of employees, but that's it. I don't believe that there will be 50 or 60% of employed people will work remotely. That's one thing. The second thing is business travel. Business travel and extending their stay or coming in advance, the so-called leisure travel. So there have always been leisure travel. I mean, we didn't use the same terminology, but there have always been leisure travel, because people would, you know, business travelers would use even points, would use miles. You know, they will go on a 3-day business trip, and then they will stay over the weekend, and they will fly their loved one, you know, to come with points or miles that they have accumulated with their business trips, and they will spend a nice weekend in Paris or in New York or here and there. So it has always been like this. I believe that we will see more of this, simply because people are already used to stay closer to each other within the family because of the pandemic and so forth. And so going on a 3-day business trip, while in the past it was something that nobody paid attention to. Yeah, you know, my husband or my wife is going on a business trip. Now you kind of feel the gap, you know, that people start missing each other more. That's my point. So I believe that they will be bringing their loved ones as an extension to a business trip and so forth. And actually, I'm looking at the latest stats, and this is JD Power and US Travel Association, is that people believe that, you know, that in the next 6 months, they will travel on business at, you know, 88% of respondents, they expect to take at least one business trip over the next 6 months. While in 2019, they were 92%. So when people asked at this point in time, are you planning, you know, a business trip over the next 6 months? There were 92% of them said yes. Now they're 88%, which means that business travel is coming back.
Business travel is coming back. This is great, and we really hope the destinations will be ready to welcome all the business travel that would like to extend their stay with their family. Let's hope that they will be ready.
And it's a product, but then the destination have to have a product, have to promote it, you know, like a leisure type of product, have to promote it. The same is with the airlines. You know, you buy your business ticket, your loved one flies for half off, for example, or hotels. You
That's
know,
a great idea.
You extend your stay. You know, 3 days you stay at the executive room, and then you extend it with over the weekend. Then you get free upgrade to a suite. You know,
Okay,
it's a simple product upgrades, which I believe that the destinations can encourage, can initiate, and so forth, and then promote.
Okay, thank you very much for this interesting input. We are moving on with the next topic, which is the last one, but also very interesting and I must say important. We named that topic "Are all trends relevant?" because with our TrustYou data, we made a really interesting research. We decided to train our algorithm to detect and extract words that are connected to sustainability in order to see how much people actually talk about that. And we were very surprised to find out that actually a really, really small portion of all the reviews are mentioning, and the guests are mentioning sustainability or different words like eco-friendly, like green, like waste reduction or energy saving, all these topics that we believe that they're very important. So we didn't notice any of that. And my question here for you, and we are also asking ourselves that, do you think that people actually don't care about that? Or it's just that they don't notice the visible efforts of destinations and the hospitality providers in sustainability? What do you think? Why don't people talk about that?
I first have a question, Sirma, to you, because it's very interesting and relevant actually to understand these sustainability mentions or related words. It's something that you've extracted from reviews regarding accommodations, right?
Exactly.
Yes. So basically, my opinion here is that, of course, I'm a big fan of the concept that everybody has a role to play in sustainability. In this case, however, at least my understanding, and also as a traveler, I have the feeling that the words related to sustainability in travelers' reviews are not exactly reflective of the importance of sustainability for these people. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as a traveler, I don't know when I leave reviews if I don't know if there is a special category where I can rate that. I don't think also that the platforms are trying to help to put some emphasis on that for the reviewers. I mean, I also think that although sustainability is growing as a topic in general, more and more people hear about it, there is still some misunderstanding about that. And I don't think we're at the level, at the point where every reviewer will add a constructive feedback on the topic, because there is just broadly a big misunderstanding even among tourism professionals on the topic. A more representative proxy, in my opinion, would be, for instance, to have a look at the type of hotels that people actually went to, the type of flights that they chose, the type of transportation within the destination, and also the choice of experiences that they want to participate in, because this is very, it's a big reflection of their intention to contribute to the local community as well, which is part of the sustainability process. And so my conclusion from this graph is rather that we cannot tell, I wouldn't say that people don't care about sustainability. We are just not there yet. And also, on the contrary, actually, I think it is very good, maybe occasion to to think about one of my favorite Norwegian sayings, like there is no bad weather, there are wrong clothes, there are bad clothes. And I think we can use that very much in the case of sustainable tourism in here and say there is no bad tourist, there is poorly managed destination or tourism infrastructure. And
or even
I'm saying this,
even messaging.
Yes, or messaging, exactly. Because I have the feeling that we are still putting a lot of expectations on travelers' shoulders about the change coming from them, as opposed to trying to do the opposite, trying to the industry to be the first one to serve in a way everything it can offer, that travelers just go for the sustainable option by default.
Yeah.
It's not yet that accessible apparently, but this is one direction that I really believe that we could work on. And in fact, if you look at the tourism research field, and if you are interested in organization strategies or let's say ideas, concepts for research, even within the European Travel Commission, we are trying to define which are the best travelers. This kind of segmentation, it should go away. There are no bad travelers. It's us who teach the travelers. And yeah, I think it's a little bit harsh to judge travelers by not leaving reviews that they don't care, because to be honest, I care about that, but I don't usually leave reviews. And I know that there is also a lot of greenwashing happening at the moment. Eventually, as the topic becomes more widely spread, these kind of shallow statements and offers will fade away. But at the moment, it's a little bit too early.
Yeah.
I would judge on the actual behavior that travelers showed, maybe, because also during surveys, it's also our experience. We ask people if they would go for the sustainable option. Of course, they answer they will go for the sustainable option.
100% of them. 100% of them.
Yes. So
Yes.
it's a little
Yeah,
bit.
I mean, if you ask 100% of travelers, if you ask them, is sustainability in the destination that you're about to visit important to you? And they'll say, yes, of course. 100% will say yes.
In the search phase.
Yeah, but if you tell them, are you willing to pay 10% more for a sustainable option in the destination that you're going to visit? And then guess what happens? So what I mean is that we have to make travel sustainable, period. There shouldn't be sustainable travel and non-sustainable travel.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that. So in this sense, and we owe it, and I believe that Ljubljana is absolutely right, that we owe it to the travelers to, first of all, inform them what are we doing about sustainability. Second, what have we done already? For example, we have 50% of our power generated by solar panels on the roof. Or our parking lot, we covered it in this, to keep the cars, like in a shaded area. And at the same time, we covered it, by solar panels, so that, it's like a double whammy. We achieved the dual success with, with this investment. So what I mean is that, but we are not even telling our customers what we have already done, and on the other hand, we're not educating them. People, for example, here I look at these countries. I mean, of course, when people travel, let's say when French travel to Germany, do they believe that the Germans are sustainability conscious? Of course, it's the European Union. So in this sense, they already expect that. When you travel to Thailand, that's where the issue is. I mean, do you really know whether these guys are applying, the best practices in sustainability, in everything, in transportation, the local experiences in the hotels and so forth? You know nothing.
Yeah.
And the government tourist office does nothing to educate them. The hotels, the resorts, the tour operators do nothing to educate the potential travelers. So,
visibility
so what I mean is that,
of the effort. This is very important. Our time is up. It's time flies where we're having fun.
Yes,
It was so much
absolutely.
fun. Thank you guys so much. Unfortunately, we don't have time to answer the questions from our attendees, but we promise that we will answer it afterward. I want to thank you very much, both of you. It was so interesting. To all the audience, I would like to say that we're going to share the presentation and the recording. We're also going to share a link to the European Travel Commission new dashboard with very interesting data for into travel in Europe. And once again, thank you so much for being with us. It was very interesting. We learned so much. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Lublena. For your input, and I wish you all the best. Have a lovely day, and I hope to see you all very soon.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.